Welcome. My name is Dr. King Dray, aka Drakar Granderson. We are having a mental health panel discussion. The name of the panel discussion is called Mind Rehabilitation. The goal of this panel discussion is to raise awareness, the importance of open conversations and being able to help to give people resources to decreasing their mental health concerns if they are scared to go to counseling. They don't know really what counseling is. Today, we have 3 individuals that's here to help us to discuss mental health and to help give resources and to give positive information on how to solve your mental health concerns. So we have TaQuan Pugh, we have Jamesha Mack, and we have Miss Janet Cox. The goal of this conversation is to increase awareness, to have open conversations about mental health challenges. They are unaware of how to solve these concerns. First question of the day is about navigating challenges. What strategies or coping mechanisms have students expressed that are most effective to navigating challenges within their mental health? I like to use breathing exercises in the moment if they are feeling any type of anxiety, depression, and when utilizing those breathing exercises in the moment, this can help them to calm themselves down to being able to deal with their mental health concerns. The way that you feel, you cannot control. How you respond to your feelings is something that you can control. So being mad, being sad, being upset, being angry, laughing or crying are all things that we aren't in control of. But how we respond to those things are very important. At this time, I will let the panelists speak about some of the things that they feel, and they can go in depth on this topic.
I use breathing techniques and using also the 5 senses. I believe that breath is life, and we can use it as a means of calming the nervous system. And we use our 5 senses, so touch, feel, taste, smell, and those can help to redirect thoughts. And so, whether adults or children, they find this as a calming exercise, and they can refocus themselves. So that's a technique that I use mostly, mindful meditation, breathing exercises.
When I'm working with youth, I like to mix traditional and like new age strategies. I definitely look into the CBT version of like redirecting thoughts, but I like to pull in alternative methods like grounding and centering yourself. I'm really big on moving the body. I know that when we're talking about coping tools, we're talking about being able to find a way of managing whatever is intolerable to us. So figuring out a way to be aware of how whatever this item or whatever this trigger is creating that discomfort, figuring out how to tolerate it, and then realizing when you're at a point that is not tolerable, what tools can you use to be able to manage it. And I like having awareness, being able to be aware of where in your body you're feeling this discomfort. And then going beyond that by doing grounding tools to first center yourself, because if we're talking about something like anxiety, a lot of the issues are our thoughts are in the future. We're worried about something that's approaching us due to something we've experienced in the past. So bringing yourself to a center point where you're aware of the present alleviates a lot of, discomfort, a lot of issues, a lot of turmoil. So going past that, now being able to reflect on what is causing that discomfort and managing it through, like you said, your senses. So I like sensory items, fidget tools, sensory tools, being able to play in slime that incorporates your feelings of touch. You can add aromas to it through oils and essential oils. I like using humidifiers. People don't even know sometimes when you're having like essential oils in the background and you're trying to socialize and communicate what are those triggers. So being able to do things that are kind of low key as well. And then teaching tools to individuals where they can do it themselves without it being so noticeable. Discrete tools, if that's tapping methods, being able to tap your different fingers to be able to calm the nervous system, breathing activities, being able to pop gum in your mouth, something that we don't even think about. Peppermint oils, peppermint peppermint mints that you could pop in your mouth. A lot of stuff that is easy accessible, but also stuff that can help us in these moments. And then also utilizing tools like stop, think, being able to control your thoughts and being able to stop those spiraling. So I use a different, array of coping tools. It all depends on what is the issue we're looking at. But I would say with anything that's going on, grounding yourself in awareness are two tools I noticed that works with a variety of issues that I face each day, basically.
Yes, and also uses music. Uh, Most times persons find music very therapeutic. It's usually a go-to because most of us have a phone and a headphone.
Right.
Yeah, so they use this music, but one beautiful thing about using the five senses, you can walk out in just out in nature, out in community, and it can just be that thing that just brings them back to the center because the racing thoughts, the things that happen, the need to refocus. Using your five senses, engaging like that allows the person to refocus. And like I grounding because one of the things that I encourage clients to do wherever they're standing, just to feel the earth beneath them. I remember one experience with a client, and the person was online, and the person said, I feel supported. And that was a moment that the person was able to just be still. So that those things are absolutely important. And yes, sensory and using the senses, like with aromatherapy, that's also, I agree, totally calming. But sometimes wherever that person is in the moment or the places in which they find themselves, breath work is always one of the easiest tools just to pause. I usually say to them, think about when you're playing music and you can hit the pause button. Just pause, just stop and notice your breath. Notice how you feel inside, what's happening with you, and simply breathe. Because, as I said, I do believe that breath is such a gift, such an awesome gift that can be used to help us to center ourselves, even in moments of crisis. Asking clients, for example, when you are angry, what do you feel in your body?
Or where do you feel it?
Or where exactly? Where do you? And that helps because now you open their awareness to exactly what is happening, so they can head off when they're at a 2, begin to do breath work. And the other part of it that I always in breath work is helping them. Where do you take that breath from? It's not just taking in air, but if you take that breath from in your stomach,
Yeah, as opposed to your chest.
As opposed to your chest, that exactly makes such a difference. So it's also them knowing how to do breath work that matters.
Exactly.
Yes. So when they becomes aware of and be able to name their emotions. You become aware and you can name what is happening and you can associate the feelings and the thoughts that goes with what you're feeling in your body. Then employing the different kinds of coping mechanism is much more effective because you can associate what I'm feeling with an emotion and what is it I need to do in the next moment.
Yeah, so it's a process. You got to identify the emotions that's triggering you and, link that with awareness of where that trigger is coming from, but then also going into how are you going to respond to that trigger, what coping tool, which is why I like when I'm working with clients to teach a toolbox because in one situation where a coping tool may work, it may not work in a different situation. It can be location, it can be the individual that's triggering it, the time, place, anniversaries. It's so many outliers. It might even be stuff that we might not be able to identify. Maybe it's just the time of the day. Maybe it's just something that's going on. Being able to have a backup tool is definitely beneficial. So, and then combining tools. I also think that that's very effective. So not just teaching isolated tools, teaching breath work in addition to tapping, or teaching an ability to combine tools to make it more effective. Because it's just like with anything else that's going on. When you're able to manipulate tools to be able to work for you, it's more effective as opposed to aligning with whatever textbook, prescription we're giving. Just do 10 breaths. Okay, I'm still mad. What do I need to do past that? Maybe I need to do 10 breaths, a polar plunge, which is nothing different than taking a cold shower, or an ice bath where you can basically dip your hands into ice and cool the sensory response, but combining the two to make it more effective and knowing you. Also being able to be open. Some things that I've developed in my own coping tools that I use day in, things I would have never tried before that I would have never known would have been beneficial. But as you play around with different coping tools and play along with the combination of the different coping tools, you find like your own cocktail that works for you. And again, it's awareness. What works for somebody may not work for another person. So you have to have awareness of yourself as a client to be able to understand this can be effective for 10 people out of 20, but it doesn't work for me. This can work for the person beside me, or it could have worked for me yesterday, doesn't work anymore. And also understanding that coping tools do, have their moments where they're not effective anymore, and you have to switch it up. Your body can adjust to something. Maybe these fire breaths aren't as effective anymore. What do I need to do now? But again, that pulls back to that awareness and being able to have that awareness of what's working. So I say when you're starting to get into coping tools, I know it sounds like an extra assignment, but monitoring it, monitoring the effectiveness. I give homework with my clients and I give them a data sheet. All right, well, if we're working on a new coping tool, I want you to identify the trigger. I want you to identify the coping tool you use, and I want you to identify if it was effective or not. And if it was effective, how long did it take to be effective? Because something that's effective can be like, oh, it was effective in like 5 minutes and it was able to last for the rest of the evening. Or it was only effective after 30 minutes of me doing it. Is it really effective, or did that, urge or that tendency wear away with time? Because people don't understand that time is a coping tool. Being able to let a thought pass by or urge pass by is a coping tool. Being able to distract yourself or fill in that time with something else is a coping tool because it's helping you manage. But even going beyond coping, understanding that coping can also be something that can hinder us because it doesn't allow us an opportunity to teach us tolerance. Basically, if our thoughts are racing every time we get in a certain area and we're going immediately to a coping tool, we're not being able to manage that because now we're immediately doing breath work. Breath work is awesome, everything, but I need to be able to tolerate this. I need to be able to manage it. Even if I'm only tolerating it for 30 seconds or only tolerating it for a minute. As you go on and on, that tolerance level will increase. But I always want to stress this. Coping tools can be effective, but it also can be detrimental if we're not utilizing them right, which is what makes it helpful having a provider to hold your hand in the beginning through it, until you become independent and confident enough to be able to cope independently.
Agreed. And that's one of the reasons why it's important to build a toolbox. Mm-hmm. What works for you? And that is also, it's for the person in therapy as it is for the clinician to learn about the client so that you can know what works for this client. The other part of this is also the person's thoughts. What thought occurred when you? Because that will help the person to define. For example, if someone has lots of negative thoughts, what are these negative thoughts? What are they saying to you? And that will help also the person develop an awareness, because with With the anxiety, there is usually a thought. What comes with it, and that can help the person to determine what works in the moment. So in the moment, it may not be breath work. It might mean, especially if the thought is something that is distorting or negative, not true, counter it with some self talk, some positive self talk.
Yeah.
That can help to reduce, because what you're there now is normalizing that this is not a threat. I can relax. So helping the person to differentiate or understand the situation they are in. So because under normal circumstances, if we feel threatened, it's a fight or flight.
Yeah.
So what is the body doing? Getting ready to fight or flight? Is this really a threat? And so one of the things to help our clients to do is to understand whether the situation you are in is a threat. What's the thought that comes with? How can they help themselves in the moment? So rather than they situation is escalated, they can learn to bring themselves to a calm and de-escalate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I agree with all of the things that you guys said. You went very in depth in being able to explain those things. So, TaQuan, how do you, as a school teacher, help kids to navigate these challenges of mental health, even though you may not have the same type of counseling experience as the counselors on the panel?
I mean, from my perspective, I you know, other people may beg to differ, but I don't even really feel like me as a teacher, I'm involved with them in those capacities. Like a lot of my students who have any type of like emotional issues or any type of like mental health illnesses, they have counselors that they go to. I'm definitely more, you know, being that I'm a teacher, I'm like my main like task, not even just my mission. Forget my mission. My task is, you know, to like lead a lesson, right? Some type of enrichment. But of course, just in dealing with kids, that segues, right? I eventually end up hearing about, you know, things that's going on in their personal life and like their traumas, and especially when a kid builds a rapport with you, like they start really like, you know, like opening up to you. So I think my best tool is just being a good listener. You know, I'm listening to them because, you know, like I said, I'm not a mental health expert at all, but I do see that me being an ear to them, it does a lot for them, man. And they usually like want to come back, and you know, because like I said, it could even be situations where I can't relate, right? Because I you know, I teach in New York City, so it's students from all type of, you know, backgrounds and stuff, and so it's situations where I can't relate, but they always appreciate me being a person that is like a good ear and is understanding for them. So I think that's, you know, that's one of my methods.
Okay, that's a good approach, because listening is a great tool. Even sometimes some people just might need to vent. Sometimes they may need to just get things off of their chest. So that's a good way to go about it as well. On this topic, I hope that you tune in to the next video. If you found this interesting or you have any questions, leave some comments, share this to other individuals that can learn something from this and they could take forward to utilize these skills in their real life. I'm Dr. King Dray, and I'm signing out.